before introducing our lovely guest for tonight, I just want to share a couple of words about the context in which we're hosting these events, which is basically through the Mental Design Academy. If you haven't already joined our meetup group, make sure you do that. And for those of you who don't know Mental Design Academy, it is a boot camp that we've launched in 2021 and that we've built alongside a team of designers in the hope of changing and improving the UX education space and basically helping people transition to UX design in a way that's more personalized, that's more mindful, caring, and it's pretty trying to tap into the issue that most boot camps like kind of have this UX factory of juniors, and we wanted to like provide a boutique alternative where people can come in and actually build relationships with the other students, with the mentors, and with other experts in the industry. So with this mission in mind, we are also hosting this series of events, and we will be organizing probably 2 events per month. So make sure that you stay up to date with what's coming up. And yeah, with that being said, with this introduction, keep the cities coming. Everyone who joined, for those of you who joined in the meantime, write your location in the chat so we kind of briefly fast get to know each other better. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest for tonight, Grace. Grace is just wonderful. I'm a big fan of hers since day one, since the day I stumbled upon her LinkedIn profile and I discovered everything she was doing with a wonderful community she's built that she's going to share more, that she's going to share the story of. And I think it's one of the most incredible stories in the design industry that I've been exposed to. So I'm really happy to be able to create this space where she can share her story with more people from the design community, in case you don't know it already. So with that being said, Grace, I'm gonna ask you to share a brief introduction about yourself. And first of all, thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored. I've been following your Instagram for a few years actually. I love the content you create. And it's so cool to see a lot of y'all from over the world. So it's so awesome. I'm in California too. Yeah, so I'm Grace, currently present day. I am a product designer product UX designer at Electronic Arts based in the SF Bay area, where I focus on player experience and marketing products. And just for legal stuff, I have to say is all views on my own and do not represent the views of EA or Design Buddies. And at night, I am the founder and design lead of Design Buddies, and I do all sorts of different things, but I'm mostly leading a lot of product design there as well. And for fun, I really like to run, draw, do a lot of side hustles. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my intro as well.
Thank you so much, Grace. It's really interesting that we've had another guest from Electronic Arts join us a couple of months ago, talking about transitioning from graphic design to UX design. So I feel like we already have a relationship with EA because we love their employees, it seems. Okay, so I'm gonna start. I want to make the most of the time we have available. We will time box this event at 1 hour. I'm trying to cover as many questions as possible without overwhelming you, obviously. And at the end of this event, we will be hosting a Q&A. So everybody in the audience, if you have any questions, keep them towards the end of the event and write them in the chat when we get closer to ending, so we can also have a small part for a live Q&A. And my first question for tonight is actually, how did you get into UX design? What was your journey into UX? How did it look like?
Yeah, when I graduated, so I guess I'll start from the very beginning. Actually, when I was a kid, I was never really. So growing up in Silicon Valley, a lot of the influences I had growing up was like, you got to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, and I never really vibed with that. I was like, I didn't really like school. Like, I feel like school really taught me to think inside the box. I thought school. I had problems like kind of tying school to like real world skills. So I was always that kid who just like drew in class. I was really into anime and manga. Like I never really paid attention in class. I just drew my characters and drew stories and stuff. And then my parents bribed me with video games so I can actually try in school because I was into drawing and games. That was the only thing I cared about. Uh, and yeah, and then in high school, I really wanted to I was also really influenced by my peers at one point as well as like normally kids do. I was really into cross country and track, and I thought I wanted to be a professional runner and everything. So that's how I got into biology. I took this class called AP Bio, which is like this college level course, but I loved it. And apparently it was like a really hard class, but because I could see how it could apply to running, I was like, oh wow, if I like I really want to learn how to like biohack myself to run faster. So, and I was also influenced by my peers. So I came into university studying bioengineering. Actually, I was pre-med. My first year of college in 2015, I was like, I want to be an MD, PhD, neurosurgeon, motivational speaker, runner, and anime artist. So I had a lot of random goals. And after doing a few internships in bioengineering, I realized I was just doing stuff for my resume. Um, and let me know if you can feel this way, if you feel this way in the chat too, because I feel like as a kid or as a college student, I was like, gotta get those resume lines, gotta like look prestigious, gotta impress people. I was following someone else's dream, not my own. And then in college, after navigating through internships, I was like, I want to do game design instead. I want to do like VR stuff. So there's this virtual reality lab that opened up my school. I was like, oh wow, I can like learn stuff outside my major. Like I don't need anyone's permission to. There's so much resources online. And so that's how I learned to build a virtual reality game by myself in a virtual reality lab that I just had access to as a student. So I got like, into game design, VR, AR, XR, and I actually had a lot of troubles finding jobs because at that time around like 2018, 2019, so I graduated undergrad in 2019, I couldn't find that many entry level jobs. So I was just like searching the internet about just like different things. And I wasn't ready to like fully adult yet. Like I felt a lot imposter syndrome. I felt like I wasn't ready to get a job. And so I did a master's in computer science and engineering, which I actually ended up minoring in undergrad because I was like, I needed another summer to like build up my portfolio and like intern, break into industry. So I just signed myself up for more school because I honestly didn't know what I was gonna do in life and I wasn't ready to like face the adult world yet. So this was like 2019, 2020. And then through, I was just like interested in design because I always loved art growing up. It was something I did for fun. And I was always convinced that art can't pay. So, but I was just like, I want to do it anyway. So I found UX design. I was like, oh, wow, it's like solving problems from my engineering background. And I was like, this is fun. So I just like explored a lot of like different communities online, like Facebook communities, Slack communities. I was like, wow, this looks really fun. And so I ended up just doing a lot of like reading online, a lot of hackathons, a lot of just like volunteering for startups, helping my friends design their websites, learning tools like Figma. And that's how I kind of built my way into UX design, just like leveraging online communities and just kind of learning on my own and just like doing stuff because I learned best by just doing stuff. And then I started, and then the pandemic hit in 2020. I was like, I want to get an internship. I'm nervous. And so I started like networking on LinkedIn. I would just like reached out to interesting people and just asked them about their journey. That's how I got my internship actually without applying at EA. And then along the way, I started Design Buddies because honestly, I felt like at that time, a lot of different design communities online were really intimidating. I was really scared because one time I asked a question, a simple question about a case study, and I was kind of shunned by being a beginner. So I was like, oh, this is scary. So I just started my own, and that became Design Buddies. And since April 2020, we have 30,000 members. And also since then, I started working full time at EA from December 2020. So it's almost been a year now. So yeah, it's a little bit about my UX journey.
Yeah, sorry, I think my computer froze or something. I hope that you guys can hear me. If somebody can confirm that in the chat, that would be great. It's actually great. It's such an inspiring story. I can't believe that you had like something that probably we can all relate to in the sense that I think in our 20s, especially in the early 20s, most of us didn't have an idea of what we wanted to do with our lives. And I think that for you, it was a very accelerated stage of experimentation and this self discovery, and then actually finding a path quite quickly. So for me, it happened when I was close to my 30s. So congrats for being so determined and having so much clarity so early on. And it's actually a very impressive story. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of watching your journey and your story of growing. And especially, it's impressive how Design Buddies has grown so much to 30,000 members already in like 1 year and a couple of months. So you've briefly touched upon what were the hard parts, like not having access to internships or jobs. What did you find was the most difficult when you were trying to start the most difficult parts with starting a career in UX design?
Yeah, I felt like the most difficult part was making my foot in the door because I felt like it's like the chicken and egg scenario where you had to get experience to get a job. And like I didn't really have experience, but I tried to kind of resolve that by getting my own experience by just doing like volunteering work, working for like freelance work, just like posting my stuff online a lot and just try to like build up a little brand for myself. So I got contacted by some startups, did some freelancing and start to build up my portfolio that way. So like the hardest part was getting experience, but I try to just like get my own experience without having to like apply so much. Oh, I think she's frozen. Oh,
Yeah, I'm frozen, right? I'm back. Am I back?
yeah, you're back. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I really don't know what's happening over here. I'm thinking of maybe switching rooms, but yeah, hopefully it's gonna stabilize. Please, internet, if you're listening, please be stable. Okay, but maybe you could share more with us around actually landing the internship with EA. So you've touched upon that briefly, but what do you think in terms of building uh, uh, an, i- uh, an identity as a designer that helped you find this starting role? What do you think mattered with getting landing that internship? What did you do, or what did you think was important to them? What are your thoughts around how that happened?
Yeah, for sure. I really think it starts with being curious, and being curious could look like posting about my learnings online on especially LinkedIn. I see a lot of people use Twitter these days as well. And I also saw a question in the chat, the template. I actually have a blog article about that, so I could post it in the chat as well. And yeah, I feel like just curiosity in terms of like posting my own stuff on social media and also reaching out to people. And so what I did was this was during the beginning of the pandemic where a lot of people were online more. I definitely seen a trend. I don't know if this will work that much now, but what I did was I actually cold messaged 400 people on LinkedIn, and
Wow.
yeah, and so this was me working. So I guess kind of stepping back a bit, I was really involved in a lot of my local communities on Facebook, and that's how I met my first mentor, who was a senior recruiter in the biotech space. I used to run this fun like work study group just for fun, and that's how I met my first mentor. And he gave me this advice that basically changed my whole career. It was that I could just reach out to people, and the way I reached out to people was because I get a lot of DMs these days asking like, "Hey, I don't know you, but can you give me a referral?" Like that's like what you're not supposed to do. I get those like every single day. But what I did was I was also genuinely curious. Is I sent I searched up like senior managers, directors on LinkedIn or managers on LinkedIn of companies I was interested in. And I sent them under 300 character connection requests. I was like, hello, I'm Grace. I am a graduate student studying computer science and engineering, working towards a career in UX product design, and would love to know how you got to where you are today. And I left it really open ended. I made it really about them because I feel like the mistake I made in the beginning was that I made it too obvious that I was looking for an internship. But I feel like just learning more about how the other person got into design from like different career paths also gave me a lot more insights of what I could do as well, and just like stuff that helped them might help me. So I focused on like making a lot of connections, and then director of my team at EA asked if I needed an internship while I was doing this summer. I was like, I have no job. And he was like, do you want to work for my team? I was like, yes. And yeah, so that's what happened. But it's really a numbers game. I feel like if anyone wants to try this approach, like don't get discouraged if people don't respond. I feel like these days, like even I get so bombarded with a lot of messages on LinkedIn. They could be busy, they could just be busy, and it's not on you. And so I sent 400, about 100 people got back to me, and I had about 30 coffee chats. So those are my numbers. I had another friend who did the same thing, and he sent 2,000 connection requests. So it is really a numbers game. And what I usually did was put on a podcast and just like send. And so, yeah, so that's basically how I kind of got in without applying.
That's a great story of being determined and persistence that eventually overcomes resistance. So yeah, I think that for me an important takeaway to the story you just shared is that you really have to be personal in whatever you try to do. So if your goal is to build a personal brand, which we will go ahead and try to unpack a bit more in detail. So if you try to build a personal brand, or if you try to just land a job or expand your network, I think the key part is actually going personally, reaching out to people and trying to be mindful about the way that you approach them and not just ask for things. I also get a lot of messages with people just, can you please share my post? And why would I do that? I mean, if I would like share everyone's post just like that, it would be like doing this all the day, all the time. So definitely it has to be something that's mindful and respectful of the other person's time. But mostly I think most people, like you said, probably time is a constraint that everyone has, obviously, but most people would be open. And these one-on-one conversations are an incredible place for growth and for like building up for future opportunities, if that makes sense. So I really love the story of pushing for your dream. And getting back to the topics, or going into more detail for our topic for today, personal branding. What do you think personal branding actually means? I mean, how would you define? Let's try to unpack this a little and then try to see how we can, if someone is here to build a personal brand, later on trying to explore how they might do that. So, what is a personal brand, especially as a UX designer?
Yeah, I think of like doing things and telling people. That's like what I think about personal brand, because you like to do things in life and then you post about it, and then now it becomes like part of you as well. And so I guess some actual tips would, I see a lot of people do this. I used to do this as well, like attend design conferences, attend webinars, and share their takeaways, tag the hosts, because it shows that you're really curious, you really care about your like professional growth, so you're attending these events, but you're also giving back to design community by sharing your learnings and stuff, and also being grateful for the speaker. So just like I used to do this, and I've seen a lot of people do this, and sometimes those posts went viral. Is make a post on LinkedIn, tag, you can do this at this webinar too, tag both of us, and we'll like and comment on it. And LinkedIn is great because the more people we get like liking and commenting on stuff, your post reaches their network too. And so it's a great way to go viral on LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn's a great platform because not there's like a big ratio of people like viewing versus posting. So there's a lot of people viewing, there's a lot of lurkers on LinkedIn, not that many like posters compared to lurkers. So LinkedIn's a great way to get a lot of views on your post. Yeah, but I guess it comes down to just like doing things and telling people. And in a digital age, it looks like posting on social media. But also, I think of like traditional brands, like how different like big brands make you feel. Like for example, Nike, like just do it makes you feel like very like want to go and work out. And so personal brand is like how you make people feel. Like what do people talk? How do people associate you like when you're not in the room? So there's also that aspect as well. So yeah, I just think about how I can like use like traditional brand elements and kind of tie it to my own personality and think of different ways I can bring out my brand, different touch points of the audience or the viewer, and just try to bring it out that way. And just being authentic and being like myself through all of my kind of methods of communication, like in real life, online and webinars, and just try to like be the same person and not like change myself to fit into a certain mold. Because me and like I know a lot of people can really tell people like are not being authentic, and so that's why I feel like authenticity is also super important when it comes to personal branding.
Yeah, this is essential, I think. So if there's one lesson that I've learned building the UX Goodies community is that if you're not authentic, it shows. And if you try to be, just like you said, mold into some sort of whatever your representation of someone who's doing content creation is, then it's gonna that level of not necessarily fakeness, but on something unnatural, more, let's say, will transpire. So definitely authenticity is the number one ingredient to building a personal brand. And I think it's the only way in which your personal brand will be sustainable. So even if you might show yourself show up as something else for a while, at some point it gets draining to sustain this image that it's not that is not an honest representation of who you are. So authenticity, I really like the point about talking about what you're doing, because this is the way in which we show the world who we are. And indeed, personal branding is about showing people who you are. I think it's interesting, and in one way, I think it's also a pity that most of the personal branding goes online now. I think that in the past, in many design communities, we also went in real life setups to build a personal brand in design meetups by going out and giving talks that weren't necessarily shared on in online spaces afterwards. So I think that especially with 2020 and the acceleration that it forced us to go through, I think that an online brand is most often a personal brand is most often tied to online presence. So they kind of became very intertwined. So authenticity, being there online, and I think that it's interesting that some people might feel, and it's a question that I get quite often. Some people might feel like they don't need that personal brand. I am not sure if you can not have a personal brand, because whoever you are, you're someone. That's your brand. Just being you is something that you communicate with the world. But at the same time, some people don't want to invest the energy, or they don't feel like they're up for content creation, or that they even enjoy that. So why should they do that? Why should we be mindful, or why should we care about having a personal brand? Why does it matter?
Yeah, I feel like for UX specifically, this is what I see a lot through like LinkedIn design buddies is I guess question of how do you stand out as a UX designer? Because I feel like what I've seen the industry trend is like a lot of people are switching careers to UX design. So there's a lot of people who are like junior level, entry level designers, and personal branding can help you really stand out. In addition to that, it can help you kind of work your way up to being a thought leader if you're interested in just sharing your knowledge with the community, getting talks at like conferences, and just being seen as an overall thought leader. It's a great way as well. And also for like something like not related to publicity, but it's how you make friends online. So I kind of learned this through my childhood actually. I didn't really fit in school growing up because I was just like I was like quite a nerdy kid. And I found a lot of people like online, and just talking about my own interests online helped me find really specific friends who were into the really specific things I was into. So it helped me find like friends that way too when I posted about like my interests and stuff. So yeah, like personal branding can help you stand out as you're seeking for a UX job, and also while in your role, if you're like mid-level senior, personal branding helps you get more visibility in your company, which helps people who make the decision whether to promote you become aware. And that's why I post a lot on LinkedIn, because I know a lot of them hang out there. So it helps you like beyond your entry level career as well, because how most promotions work is like people higher up who usually hang out on LinkedIn make decision to promote you, and it's also how you stand out within your company as well. And it also helps you like make friends because you talk about your interests. People are like, oh hey, I like the same thing, and like connect that way. So that's how I made a lot of different friends too. So I feel like it depends how comfortable you are sharing it. It helped you just basically get more visibility, get more friends, and yeah, that's why I think personal branding matters a lot, especially just from like a job standpoint and like a social standpoint as well.
It's actually a really interesting aspect that I didn't really think through, but indeed I feel that I can confirm that UX goodies actually helped me in my company career as well, because by becoming visible to the world, I also became more visible to the inside world of my company. It's really true. And somehow people like other designers came to meet me. Hey, I saw that you're posting content. I really like that post about something or something else. So it helped me expand my network even inside a current job I had. So I wasn't looking necessarily for another job, but inside a company, it really supported networking in a way. So I think that ultimately personal branding is also about um, communicating your values, communicating your interests, what you're good at, what you want to what you're curious about, and then attracting people with similar interests or job opportunities that kind of fit this online persona, that the parts of you that you're putting out there. And I'm actually giving a talk at Adobe. It's an event, Adobe Design Mix, and I'm going to be talking about online communities next week. And this is like the my key finding is that online communities are like the most important part for designers in finding growth opportunities. So be it job opportunities, new friends, just like you said, peers that you can learn from, mentors who can guide you. It's incredibly important, especially with the world going online. And so yeah, I think that I really loved the points that you made. I wouldn't necessarily like force people into building a personal brand. Some people don't want to think about that. They want to just build products, and that's also a way of building a personal brand, like a byproduct of the work you're doing. And that's also extremely valuable and a very good way to go about your career. But at the same time, I think that it really pays off to be present, to have an online presence, and to like make online friends, essentially, if that's like an ultimate benefit, if you want. So okay, now in terms of more, let's say, a tangible lens on this conversation, what can a designer, let's say I'm a fresh designer, or I've been in the industry for a couple of years, I decided that I want to build a personal brand. What is the recipe? What are the steps that I need to go through, or the things that I need to do in order to start building a personal brand? So be intentional about it. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like my lens kind of comes in more like first building personal brand online, just because when I graduated college, like COVID happened. So what I'm used to is like the online space. I know there's definitely different ways to do it, like in real life, which I don't have too much experience in. Um, but I feel like online, if you've been working for a few years, most designers that I've seen online have like different areas of industries they're interested in. For example, if you are interested in like game UX, interested in building fintech, and so I would just like kind of focus on that and focus on your niche, because I've seen a lot of portfolios that are like very templated. Like it's like, hi, wave emoji. I am a designer building human-centric products. I mean, like all designers do that. And so I would like really find like why, like what are you excited about, rather than just like being very generic. So it could be like, I love like illustrating. I love bringing art into my design, or I love like working in the fintech space, love in the hospitality space. It could be like whatever industry or sector you're interested in, really bring that out, and also help you like find different career paths as well. And so I would just like just reflect and think about like what makes you different than other designers, because everyone, there should be something that you're probably different about, and just thinking about how you want to express that. So when it comes up in your like your elevator pitch or your portfolio site or your social media, or like LinkedIn bio, you can talk about that, and you can even like on social media, you can even share like related articles. Like you saw this like new trend if you're interested in fintech. You saw this new like Web3 crypto article about design, shared on LinkedIn. And I guess for creating content, it doesn't always have to be like your original content. As long as you credit people, you can also like reshare stuff that you're interested in. They just want to you just like find really helpful and can just share that as well. That's also contributing to your personal brand. So that's more for the social media end. In the online community front, I feel like I've seen a lot of people do this in design buddies too, is they would just like be really active in the community and share a lot of articles that they found helpful, engage in conversations that relate to them. Like we have some people interested in like crypto, Web3, so we kind of know they're in it because they talk about it a lot. And people interested in like freelancing for like marketing companies or something. So really it comes down to like finding what makes you different from all designers based on your actual interest and finding ways to really express that online and engage in those kind of conversations and online spaces. And I guess also going to conferences as well once we go into like the real world space.
I love these points. I actually want to say that I have a good friend that built like an impressive Twitter following, like I think over 20,000 people following him just by sharing articles. So I think he never had like a Twitter status with something like with an idea or something. It was just sharing interesting things that he stumbled upon, and so he built quite a following. That's also interesting. Just curating content is something that with the huge volume of information that we're getting exposed to all the time, like this cognitive load, and it's totally overwhelming, and sometimes it's even toxic. We need people that can like curate the things that we see and we consume, so and we trust, and people that we trust. So that's an interesting point. And I think I really loved your point around talking about the industries that you're passionate about. This is actually a career exercise that we have at our UX bootcamp at Mento. So we do that with our students. We try to like throughout the bootcamp, we try to prepare them for the industries that they would be more excited to start in. And it's a self-reflection exercise that's not easy. So what's impressive is that it always takes a long time. It feels like you're making this life decision, but essentially it's a very important exercise to sit down with yourself and figure out what do you want to work on, what are the products that you'd be most excited about, what are the problems that you want to solve. And this is a very interesting question, and it will help you like figure out what type of content and what type of an online presence and what your personal brand will be based on this question and figuring that out. It's not easy. Just a disclaimer, it's probably going to take a lot of time, and it's ever growing. So it's not that you have one answer and it's going to stay like that. It's transforming based on all the experiences that you have. Okay. Cool. So, let's say someone is just starting out in their UX career, be it by transitioning from another background or, I don't know, maybe fresh out of college, like in your case. What are some tips and tricks for someone who's new in the industry and who kind of knows no one and feels like they're lost and confused? How should like someone that's very junior to UX start their personal brand construction?
Yeah, that was exactly me a year ago. Like I was lost and confused and didn't know anyone because my major was bioengineering and computer engineering. So that was like all my contacts, and everyone was like, there's no like design major at my university. So I couldn't really like leverage that network as well. And so, yeah, I was definitely really lost. And just a quick comment on like personal brand, it feels a bit like choosing, like, I guess like choosing the industry you want to work in. It feels a bit like choosing a college major a bit. And I was just say it's okay to evolve. Like I definitely changed a lot throughout the years. And I feel like the blocker that I felt before was that once I set on like an industry I want to do, it's like set in stone. But like in reality, that's like false. It can always change. I've always, when I was younger, I used to fear like losing followers on Instagram because I had like 7 Instagram accounts. The reason why I created 7 was they all had different niches, and I knew that if I like were to post, I don't know, like food art on my like digital or Instagram, I lose followers and stuff. So I feel like I was going up with this like kind of blocker I had in mind of like having to like be constrained to a box. I know a lot of designers who have a lot of interest like outside of design as well. And so you can definitely incorporate like everything. Like I managed to do it. And yeah, and so like don't constrain yourself to a box. It's okay to have like different areas of interest. I just have like my main portfolio where I have like what I'm interested in, and also like a sandbox place on the side as well. And yeah, I guess kind of like built on top of that, built just like try to add whatever I'm interested in, and incorporate it on my portfolio and social media. And in return, I just like joined when I was starting out. So I'll try to go dive in a bit deeper of how like my journey was. So in fall of 2019, I was like, okay, my first year of grad school, I was like, I wanted to drop out of school, honestly. Like I was only in there because I need another summer to intern. And I honestly like didn't really know what I was doing. Wasn't really enjoying my classes and stuff. So I started like joining a lot of online communities and in-person meetups actually, because this was like before COVID. And I would just like talk to a lot of people because I feel like by talking to a lot of people and just being really curious, you'll find out more about like what's out there. What do people like in this industry? And you think like, is this for me? And just like kind of explore further. And so people also generally like talking about themselves. So you'll like probably find a lot of people who are into talking to you. So if y'all are new in this chat, feel free to just like reach out and like join design buddies or like reach out to each other and ask each other like what are you interested in. So I would talk to a lot of like entry level designers, junior designers. Sometimes we form like support groups, so people like in the same level as me, and also talk to like mid-level senior designers and ask them about like what motivates them, what are their career goals, and what challenges are they facing. And I like to ask a lot of those questions, like what challenges are you facing, what's your goals, what's your interests, and just like get to know them. And sometimes become like really great friends. And yeah, so that's what I did. And then I started just also posting. Personally for me, like I just love, I'm like really used to like blogging and just like putting myself out there. I also understand some people might not be as comfortable with that, but for me, I found a lot of success. I feel like posting on LinkedIn was so scary in the beginning because I was okay with like posting on like Instagram and stuff because it was more casual. But like LinkedIn, I was like, wow, all these like recruiters are here. Like, what if I make a spelling mistake? Well, like the entire industry like not like me or something. So that was like those thoughts I had going in my mind on LinkedIn. And then I feel like the hardest part was just starting. Once you get over that initial hump of starting, like everything just becomes easier from there because you realize it's like not that scary. And for me, it was posting on LinkedIn. Like I was so nervous. So I started just like posting my artwork to begin with. And I was like, oh wow, it gets a lot of views. I was like, oh, might as well just like positive reinforcement. Because just do it again. And so I started just like I also started connecting with a lot of other designers on LinkedIn, saw what they're posting and just got inspired to like kind of just gain inspiration from their posts and sharing their learning, sharing my own learnings and stuff. And so I would do that as well, just sharing my learnings. And also when I put my work out there, a lot of people reached out to me to do like freelance work, volunteering work as a UX designer. So that's how I built my portfolio, by doing like a lot of real world work. Also, a lot of people started reaching out to me to team up for like designathons, hackathons. So that's how I got a lot of practice as well. And so that's how I personally started in the lens of like personal branding, is just talking to people from all different walks of life, from all different types of experiences, just learning about what's out there and making a lot of connections, having a strong support group, and also posting about my learnings on LinkedIn and attracting people. So my goal was to have people like come to me instead of me having to reach out to people. So like that ended up happening. And yeah, that's how I started. And I guess some more actionable tips is, I feel like this also really depends on your learning style. For me, I learn the best by doing things. I know some people, sometimes they learn best by like audio, visual. But for me, this is like what helped me as like a kinesthetic learner, is just by like doing things and asking for feedback along the way. So joining hackathons, doing startups, working with people who have more experience than me, and really asking for their feedback, and just doing that and just kept improving along the way, and just being also really self-aware and just really curious, like really aware and acknowledge like my weaknesses, my areas of opportunity or weaknesses, or aka opportunities for improvement, and just being really humble and just like being willing to learn and just remove my ego and just being really curious as a junior designer. And I feel like this is also something that a lot of hiring managers look at. I feel like a lot of people, when I talk to them, just from my experience in the greater design community, is that a lot, well, not a lot of people, but some people have a lot of ego, and it really makes you feel like you don't want to work with them because they have so much ego. They're not willing to admit mistakes and stuff. So I feel like it's kind of going on like a tangent, but like just being really curious and without ego and just being willing to learn, because I feel like there's always opportunities for everyone to improve in some point. So expressing that and just being really curious also helps as well, and being authentic.
I think we have the perfect recipe here. I hope everyone took notes because it feels like you've covered most of the essential parts. I love the idea. I think the main takeaway for me is and has always been that reaching out and talking to people is the most important thing you can do with your personal brand if you want. So that's where for me it actually translated into inviting random people I admired or had an interesting post on the internet, just inviting them for a online chat, or sometimes if they're in my local community, invite them out for a coffee, and just reaching out to designers, to peers, to people who I feel I can learn from, or that they're in the industries that I'm passionate about, or people who I feel have done other interesting things that I want to learn more about, and just reaching out to them. And I think as long as they're not like this very bombarded creator, like I don't know, Chris Doe, or someone maybe write to Jacob Nielsen, who might be pretty unavailable for these kinds of conversation. But if you reach out to like a normal designer out there, doesn't have a huge following, I think they're happy to share their story. They're excited to meet another designer. So that's extremely valuable. And I think that we kind of limit ourselves from shyness or from like fear of rejection, or because it kind of feels weird to like write to a complete stranger and ask them for a conversation. But just an example from last week, and I'm going to go ahead and ask my last question before we go into the question from our audience in the chat. A lot of questions already piling up. There was this person who made a post on LinkedIn about their mentor, and it happened to be that their mentor was my mentor. And I just commented that, oh, Stephen is also my mentor. And so she said, you know what, let's have a chat. I'm gonna send you an invite right now, and then we have a call this week. I'm super excited to meet her. It feels like it's just this new person, that it's a new conversation and a new friend, if you want, that's like the result of one comment, one maybe comment that show the commonalities between us, the common interests, or the things that we have in common. Yeah. So I think it sometimes it pays off immediately. Other times it takes a while between you like reap the benefits of your online offer efforts. But many times it's just like magical, just like that. Okay, so my last question, Grace, would be if I am to start today, or I feel that I don't necessarily have a personal brand and I want to build one, what channel do I go on? So you spoke briefly about LinkedIn and how its algorithm is quite magic right now. It's true. I've also noticed that. But what channels are like the best for building a personal brand? Because you can go on YouTube, Medium, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, Twitter. Where do we start? Where does one designer start from?
Yeah, I have to really say it depends on your goals. And because different platforms have different audiences. So for me, I work in like large tech gaming company, and so I know a lot of people hang out on LinkedIn, but I know a lot of freelancers, they hang out a lot on Instagram. So if you're interested in like freelancing, like maybe Instagram and Twitter and Facebook groups are a great place. So depends on your goals, but from my personal experience in like large tech companies is LinkedIn and also Twitter. I'm still relatively new to illustrated Twitter, so I'm figuring it out too. But I know like design Twitter is like this huge thing. I know a lot of like high level, like very experienced designers hang out on Twitter because they don't like LinkedIn. They feel like it's too formal. But right now, I feel like specifically this day and age, like LinkedIn's great because the algorithm's great. And also hanging out on like Discord communities, Slack communities, and just being there to just like talk with people, meet people like that way. Because I feel like sometimes cold messaging someone is like your example, like you connect with someone based on a comment. And the more you join communities, the more you engage on social media, the more you increases in likelihood of seeing someone that you can like comment on or having something in common. So also joining communities on like Discord, Design Buddies, UX Goodies, Discord, Slack, and just like find like look at people's like intro section and just like, hey, I also like am similar to that, and just like reach out to like, hey, I saw your intro post in this community, would love to connect and maybe chat about this because I also do this. Yeah, so I guess I just gave a bunch of answers, but I guess it really depends. To sum it up, I guess like for me personally, in my only experience, just like for big tech and gaming is LinkedIn, Twitter, and then for freelancing, I see a lot on like Facebook groups, Instagram, and also for everyone, I think there's always going to be a community who is similar to your niche, and joining these communities and reaching out to those people as well.
Yeah, I think you're very to the point, and I feel the same way regarding the split between communities. Also, TikTok is now gaining a lot of design followers, and there are like these huge accounts with huge followings already on TikTok creating content about design, which is, I feel like I'm like a grandma trying to to understand TikTok and blend mingle with the teens, but it's really interesting to explore as well. That's also an opportunity and a space where growth should continue to happen. So before we jump into the questions, we have a lot of questions. I hope we can cover as many as possible. In case we can't cover all the questions, I will invite everyone at the end to share their LinkedIn in the chat. And we will leave this meeting open for an extra 5 minutes after we finish. And so we will be able to connect between ourselves on LinkedIn, and then maybe you can ask the question if it's not answered directly to Grace, as much as she has time to take messages after this event. And also you can send it over to me on LinkedIn and I will try to answer it as well. But we try to cover as many as possible now. And one other thing, I just want to say that I think this is a great thing that can be shared on LinkedIn. So if everybody wants to like take a screenshot of this meeting and talk about some interesting insights from tonight, here's an idea for your first post, or maybe not necessarily the first. Okay, and with that being said, I'm gonna go and take the questions that came in the chat. Thanks to everybody who dropped their question over there. So John is asking, how many social media would you recommend to have? Like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram? It's a very good question because I feel like I never have this balance, right? I mean, it always feels like there's too much to do and too many. I know Gary Vee had like this strategy for repurposing the same piece of content for like 27 different posts or something, 70. So it might be possible if you like optimize for posting on a lot of platforms, but I fail. I really fail very badly. So, Grace, what are your thoughts around that? How many platforms can one hold?
Yeah, it really depends on your bandwidth. I don't recommend like blank copy posting into other platforms because a lot of people who follow you on multiple platforms, and they would get really bored if they see the same content. And so I would find ways to like, if you're interested in like both, for example, like Instagram and Twitter, sometimes I post the same thing on like Instagram stories and also as a tweet. And so things like that, and also incorporating like a visual with Instagram. So I guess it really depends on your bandwidth and what you're most interested in, and also what your industry hangs out more, and just kind of go from there. I would say like at least one, and maybe you can have the other ones just redirecting their audience back to that one.
I think that makes sense. From my experience, I think it makes the most sense. Okay, so we have a lot of questions. I'm so sad if we can't cover them all because they're super interesting. Many of them, all of them, I think. So the next question, I'm gonna take them like in chronological order to not feel like I'm discriminating. So how do you fight imposter syndrome? This is a long conversation to have. I think we need a meetup event on that only. But quickly, if you have some ideas or what worked for you.
Yeah, I would just say having that mindset that people hired for a reason to make decisions. And for me, it just took a while because, like, for me, I felt like a small potato because I did study design. So I felt like a lot of people around the same age as me who were in design school was like really far ahead. And I would say, like, focus on my strengths. And because everyone has such a unique background, there's always going to be things you can bring that are unique to yourself that can like contribute a value to society. So focusing on that really helped me, and also focusing on what I do have instead of like what I don't have, because I know like I used to be like super competitive just because of my upbringing, and with cross country and track it was all like a numbers game, and so I would focus on just like what I have instead of like what I can control, instead of like what my peers are doing. Because and also focusing on like collaboration over competition, because I feel like most people just want to like improve society. Like I feel like just personally for me, like I don't see any value in like competing with people, because like I'm just like, how do I help the most people? It's by collaborating with people to like make something bigger as well. And so I dislike well, I feel like I think of like what reaps the most benefits, what can help the most people, and that's just like grouping together. And I guess to sum it up, just like leveraging, kind of like focusing on my strengths and what I do have instead of what I don't have. And my imposter syndrome used to come with just like the competition aspect, but focusing on collaboration over competition helped me a lot.
I love this idea of collaboration over competition. I think it should be like a mantra for the coming years in the design industry. I think that we're so much powerful when we reframe things in this light. So another question: what did you find helped you find freelance work? Did you mostly rely on LinkedIn, or are there freelance sites that you recommend? Have you tried any freelance platforms?
I actually never tried. I'm probably not the best person to ask about this. But I just posted my work on like LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter and Facebook groups, and people just reached out to me. But I know there's a lot of different freelance sites out there. I don't know which one's good, which one's bad. So then you can ask and decide what is.
It's a great idea. So everyone, we're gonna reshare the link again at the end of this event. Make sure you join the Discord communities, Design Buddies, because it's a really nice place to hang out with other designers. So another question, because I'm like running through questions. I want to make the most out of the time we have available. Any advice for building a portfolio for someone pursuing UX with no design background?
Yeah, I would start like I feel like portfolios. I feel like for me, starting from scratch, like my first portfolio, I use a template. Reverse engineering that template to make it your own is something that helped me a lot, because and also looking at other like best folios, co-folios, those like portfolio listing sites gave me some inspiration of like how portfolio is supposed to look like. And starting with building a template helped me a lot, without a UX background as well. So that helped me the most, and bring my own style, just having fun with it. Honestly, it's like an art project or design project.
I love this idea of having fun with it. Like it's like it's a like a UX project. So if you have no experience, you can build experience by building your portfolio. That's definitely true. And I feel that yeah, I just want to second recommending Cofolios, especially for people who are looking for internships or entry level jobs. Cofolios.com is a very good resource for seeing how others have done it, have successfully done it. So another question from Chelsea: when did you start to feel comfortable in your skills or know when you're ready to start freelancing?
Great question. You never know when you're ready. Just do it. For me, like I was just like, I don't know, I just tried doing it, and yeah, I guess there's no really set answer. I guess it really looks different for everyone, but I would say like, why not? Um, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of posted it. And I guess how I casually knew was when people started reaching out to me for my skills. Like, oh, wow, like my skills could be of value to someone else. So that's when I started to grow my confidence, when I had people like starting to reach out to me. So that was my personal, like, kind of set boundary when I was comfortable.
I can also say that if even you have imposter syndrome and you doubt and question yourself even after 5, 10 years in the design industry in your career. So I think that the sooner you start, the faster you can make the necessary mistakes, have the painful growth experiences, and so it's true that you don't want to mess up someone's project or someone's product, but at the same time I think that if you do your best, and if you admit when you don't know something and get support from more experienced designers when you need to solve a problem, then you can start early, and with the right support system you can handle a project earlier than you'd think. Another question. Any tips for standing out when you're more interested in UXR versus UXD? Research portfolios seem to be a lot less expressive and stand outish. Without a doctorates that a lot of research candidates have, I don't know how to stand out. Yeah, the world of UX research is a bit more sophisticated in terms of how to land jobs. Grace, do you have any thoughts about that?
I actually don't. I'm not a UX researcher, so I don't want to speak for UX research. But I would recommend look like asking UX researchers on LinkedIn and ask like how they got their first job, or like how they were able to stand out from the experts themselves. Because I'm a UX designer, so I can't speak for that.
It's a very fair answer. It's what I would have answered myself. So here's a great opportunity to actually reach out to someone and have a meaningful conversation. Reach out to other UX researchers and ask that question. So another question: how would you? I'm thinking we're gonna take like one more or maybe two questions and then wrap up this event because I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So Aisha is asking, how would you find a mentor? I'm just starting out in my career and I would really like to meet someone who can show me the reins.
Yeah, I would just reach out on LinkedIn. I found for me, I just searched people on LinkedIn and joined communities and just meeting people organically. Like I met my mentors through like the Ask Mentors channel and Design Buddies, honestly. And so yeah, I guess just hanging out in communities and just meeting people organically, just like how you meet friends. That's how you meet, that's how like I found the most mentors in and also like just joining groups and yeah, reaching out to people. And I feel like from my experience, like building a relationship with that person first before officially asking them to be a mentor is good, because sometimes for me and what I did before was when I asked someone like without knowing them, like, hey, do you want me to be a mentor? It's a bit scary because it feels like a big commitment. So I would recommend like building a relationship with them first, just like, hey, like asking them like, what do you like to do? Like, how did you get into design? And if you feel like you connect with them, like as like on a personal level, then you can like make the ask and stuff like that too. So that's what I would recommend.
Great advice. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this event because I want to be mindful of Grace's time. I know her day is just starting and she has a lot of meetings and stuff to do lined up. So I want to thank you first of all, Grace, for accepting this invitation, for being so open, and for all the nice content and the inspirational story that you're sharing with the world. I want to invite everyone to write their LinkedIn, copy their LinkedIn link in the comments. We will leave this room open for another 5 minutes so that we're able to connect to each other and actually build a relationship straight from find new friends straight from this event. So everybody share your LinkedIn, and we will try to like connect with one another. Grace, once again, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. This is fun. And yeah, feel free to like anyone, feel free to like reach out to me, ping me in Design Buddies. I'm happy to answer any questions as well. And I just wanted to quickly address some of the other questions just really quickly, as I don't think it has to do with number of followers. I feel like this is something, a misconception I get. I feel like number of followers, it's like vanity metrics. It doesn't really contribute. It doesn't really show like how much value. And the kind of main takeaway is I don't want people to be intimidated or feel like they have to get a certain number of followers in order to be like quote unquote successful. It's about the connections you make, the one-on-one connections you make, and just don't feel that pressure at all. I think followers is like secondary. If people like start to notice you, then that's where you get followers. But I wouldn't have that as like a blocker anyway. And juggling time management, it's a lot like delegating and prioritizing. Like it's the whole talk, but it is a lot. Yeah.
I want to absolutely support your answer to that question. As a person who has a lot of followers, I can definitely say that numbers don't matter. You sometimes I have a lot of followers, but actually genuinely interact with like 100 people or less. So it's really in what matters and what makes me happy is not to see like how many likes a post will get, but to actually have a meaningful conversation or a relationship or a new friend or a new connection that will actually be able to like teach me something, or I don't know, there's gonna be an exchange in that aspect. So definitely don't get intimidated by numbers. Many times they're nothing more than just pure chance. For me, that's how it felt. And yeah, so thank you again to everyone who joined. Thanks, Grace, for taking another question. I really appreciate it. And I will like mute and stop the video. Everyone can do the same, but this uh, event will remain open 5 more minutes, so we can go through the links in the chat and open them and then connect with one another. My link is also in there for anyone who wants to tag me. Grace also shared all her social links. Make sure you join Design Buddies as well. And thank you. Stay in touch with the Mento events. We're gonna have another interesting event by the end of this year on design systems, and for next year we have a lot of hot stuff cooking. So stay close, and bye, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was fun. Thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed our conversation. And thank you so much, everyone. I have a work meeting now, but this is really fun and definitely going to attend more Mento events.
Thank you, Grace. Bye. I'm muting,
Thank
stopping the
you.
video. The event remains open for a couple of minutes. So bye.